Hi, welcome to KJ and we have Dr. Charles Choti, who is in the studio. Welcome, Dr. Choti.
Thank you, Dr. Umandi.
Yes, thank you for coming. And this is a topic which has eluded me several times. And we are having a discussion about, is Kenya a nation or a tribal conglomerate? What can you say about that, Dr. Choti?
First, Dr. Umandi, thank you. That's a very good question. And I'm happy to take part in this discussion. First, we need to understand what a nation means. What does a nation mean? What is a nation? We normally describe or define a nation as a group of people with the shared way of life, language. It can be language and customs, traditions, and to some extent even shared territory with the well-defined boundaries. And most importantly, when you talk of a nation, the people who belong to the nation must be conscious that they are one people, they are one nation. And that means that the commonalities, the shared way of life transcends any other subgroups in that group. So that's why we say that a nation is sovereign, is a sovereign entity. It supersedes any other sub-variations or groupings in a group. Sometimes a nation is more powerful than most people usually look at it.
Yeah,
that's what I can say.
Okay, and does Kenya attain that now?
Kenya has issues in terms of nationhood. To some extent, Kenya can be seen as a nation, but it is not completely a nation because it is like a failed project in terms of nation building. And there are reasons why which can explain that. When you talk of a nation and the people who make up that nation, first, the people themselves have to display some maximum loyalty and be proud being in that grouping or in that community. And that means that the mechanisms, let me say the government, the system in the nation, the ruling class, the ruling institutions must meet the needs of the people equally in terms of equity, but especially in terms of resource distribution, services to mwananchi, to the people. And the people themselves must be satisfied that the ruling group or class treats them equally across the board. If there are some imbalances, some inequalities, some iniquities in terms of resource distribution, and some people don't feel that they count, they are given a fair deal. If people have grievances in terms of the way resources are being shared in that group, then that group may not qualify as a nation. And Kenya has not.
Okay, why do you say so?
There are many reasons, Dr. Mandi, why Kenya does not qualify as a nation.
Mm.
Kenya actually has given more prominence to the idea of ethnicity.
Mm.
Kenya is made up of ethnic groups. There are about 43 ethnic groups in Kenya.
Mm.
And the politics in that country, right from independence, the way Kenya was conceived, but you know, Kenya is a colonial creation. It was created by the colonial system, just like other African countries. Kenya's boundaries were not put in place by Africans. Actually, even Africans were not consulted. It was the white people, the British, the French, the Germans, when they were sharing Africa during the scramble for the partition of Africa. They created these nation states, the so-called African nations, with the boundaries which were arbitrarily drawn without even considering the cultures, societies, ethnic groups. They were not considered and they were not even consulted. So when we inherited this, what we call Kenya today, people were far from being united. The population was not conscious or aware that they belong to one nation. But over time, it's now more than 50 years since Kenya attained independence. But you still see Kenyans identifying themselves more with their ethnic groups.
Now, okay, in that, and I mean, there are so many other countries which were colonized in Africa.
Yeah.
Why particularly was it that Kenya is the one which is perpetuating that? Is there anything unique about Kenya, either the history or the geography of Kenya?
No, it is the political class, the politicians, the leaders who inherited, who took over, especially at independence. Jomo Kenyatta, the likes of Jomo Kenyatta. Kenyatta built, or his government was based on tribal arrangements, and when it came to sharing of the national cake, in terms of senior government appointments, in terms of economic development, it tended to favor certain regions, particularly the group where it comes from. And these kind of politics created resentments from other regions because predominantly the Kenyatta government, most prominent positions went to his the Gikuyu people because he felt that he was more secure being surrounded by people from his own ethnic group. And the same, this one again, even when Moi took over, Moi took over and brought in the idea of Nyayo, the Nyayo philosophy, meaning that he was following on the footsteps of the former president, Jomo Kenyatta. He perpetuated tribalism. Senior appointments in the government were from one ethnic group. Now, when Moi was in power, it now went to the Kalenjin, and it was done openly. No, there's no meritocracy. I mean, they were not looking at qualifications. People could get jobs largely because of their place of birth, not qualifications to a large extent. And even economic development resources, they were concentrated in those regions.
Yeah.
And the regions, I mean, if we did most of anything that was done besides his own region, was done on the basis of friendships. And that's what we call nepotism. Nepotism is a situation where things are done along friendships or relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, at independence, we had the first constitution, which the Lancaster Constitution.
Yes. Yes, yes.
which had Majimbo. Kenya was divided into regions.
Yes.
And that was the constitution we were supposed to follow.
Yes.
But Kenyatta changed that.
Yes.
And then disbanded the Majimbo because we had to have 7 vice presidents from all those regions.
Yes.
And actually, at independence, the land issue, if the colonialists took land from Rift Valley, it was supposed to return to the same people it was taken from.
Yes.
That did not work.
Yes.
Do you think if we could have continued with the Majimbo system of government, Kenya could have been a better nation by now?
But again, Dr. Mandi, the issue of a constitutional arrangement is one thing, and leadership is another. For a constitution to be more effective, it must be there must be political will. The leaders must be committed and willing to implement that constitution, the latter. But if there is no commitment from the leaders, it doesn't matter what kind of constitution you have. Look at Tanzania. Tanzania, Nyerere single-handedly created a nation. Tanzania can qualify as a nation.
Why do you say so?
Because Tanzanians today, I have interacted with many Tanzanians, and I've had many students from Tanzania in my classes, history classes, even political science classes, mature students. When you ask them, even the tribal affiliation of their president, some of them don't even know. When they elect their leaders, Tanzanians are not so strongly affiliated to their tribes, to their ethnic groups, as Kenyans do. And that is because of the political orientation, which was spearheaded by Mwalimu Julius Nyerere of Tanzania. At independence, he emphasized the Ruizi Ujamaa-based politics and the policies. He unified the people. He made Swahili the official language, and everything was communicated throughout the country in Swahili. 2, his appointments to positions in power, his economic policies were well.
But then, Dr. George, I have an issue there.
Yeah.
Probably our tribalism is because of capitalism, which I think did well for Kenya, that we easily developed. And why Tanzanians, Ujamaa actually made Tanzania lazy, and that's why even the economy of Tanzania lagged behind, despite all of the mineral resources in Tanzania. So maybe they did not have any cake to fight for. That would have been the reason.
I don't think so. What I mean is that actually, historians, when they analyze Nyerere's leadership and the legacy in Tanzania, even in Africa, they agree. There is unanimous agreement among historians and even political commentators that Nyerere was successful, politically successful, but he failed economically. His political record, his political legacy is good because he united the people. Tanzanians see themselves as Tanzanians. And remember when I was giving you the definition of a nation, I said that the people who make up that nation, they should be loyal and proud of being in that group. And let me tell you, this sense of pride, this sense of identifying with the nation, it is because people feel that the nation, the leadership fits them equally.
So Daktari, there is one thing there. I really appreciate what Kenyatta did to Kenya, because he was a capitalist.
Yes.
At least Kenya, economically, I mean, we have to accept he did make the economy of Kenya very well, and we need to appreciate that. Also, the civil service, despite that we can talk in matters of politics, we are a tribal, but we have a very well organized civil service in Kenya. The government runs, even when you see people payukering about politics, this tribe, this what, they can talk outside, but when they go to the office, the Kenyans are very coherent. And we need to give that credit to our leaders, that they put the backbone of the country strong.
Yeah, when you talk of the economy of Kenya, I can say that Kenya naturally had economic resources to, at least by the time Kenya became independent in 1963, they were sizable compared to other African countries. At least Kenya had some people who had gone to school, people were exposed enough to manage the economy in a way that meant that the economy had to grow and expand. But remember, a larger population of Kenyans, a larger percentage of Kenyans are poor. Even when it came to the land question, the beneficiaries of the land which was previously occupied by the white settlers, when they left, this land was not given back to the peasants, to the rightful owners, the original occupants of the land. The lands were taken by Kenyatta's people, his friends, his kitchen cabinet members, and his family. That's why today Kenyatta owns large thousands of acres of land in that country. And most of the political class, most of the Kikuyu, majorities of the Kikuyu are struggling peasants, some landless, simply because the land which was inherited from the colonial settlers was not fairly distributed. And remember, this was the parting point. This is how Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and the Kenyatta disagreed on the issue of land. Jaramogi's argument was the land which was previously occupied by the white settlers should go back to the common people, those who were the Mau Mau fighters, the peasants who had lost land to the colonial imperialists. You see the point? Now, as much as people say the Kenyan economy is doing fine, but you talk to the common people, they are hurting. They are hurting. Like today, look at the way corruption has brought down the country. Most of the public institutions, look at the universities. I'm familiar with the universities because I'm a member of the Kenyan. I'm teaching staff in that in one of the universities. They're broke. Even the conditions under which our students are being taught at the universities, there's no money. The professors are idle. There's no research funds for them. There's so many things happening in that country. Corruption, and tribalism.
But the point we want to talk about is whether Kenya is a conglomeration of tribes or a nation.
Yes.
But as we were looking at that historical, what you have explained is that was it really tribal, or Kenyatta was only giving, dishing out to his cronies? Because even the Kikuyus suffer. If it was a tribalism, then we could have expected him to dispute things equally to the Kikuyus, but he only gave to his cronies. So can we really say that that is the reason why Kenya is not a nation?
Now, let me tell you one thing why we Kenya is not a nation today. Most Kenyans, talk to some Kenyans, even here in the US, in the diaspora. I talk to some of most Kenyans here. They tend to identify themselves more to their tribal affiliations than a nation known as Kenya.
Okay.
Kenyans have grievances against this identity. And the reason why I'm saying why they have those grievances is because they are not satisfied the way the country has developed, either economically, in regard to the sharing of resources, in many ways, educational wise, in terms of employment, in terms of development, infrastructure. Kenya is a very highly differentiated society.
That's true. But then you as an historian, I think this precedes our founding fathers. When we were colonized, in Kenya, we were put in reserves. The British indirect rule is that they put us in reserves. Actually, if there are people who perpetuated tribalism in Kenya, the British, because they put, if it's the Kisis, they put them on a reserve. The Kikuyus were put on a reserve. The Desert Aveta were put on a reserve, and they ruled them like silos. They did not allow these tribes to interact, because they feared that if they interact, they would unite and overthrow them. So Kenyatta already inherited a country which was already divided on tribal lines, and that's why we identify to the tribe.
No, let me tell you now. When we at independence, our leaders had the issues they had to address, and the nation building was one of them. How do we forge a nation in this divided society? Because of course I understand with the colonial political arrangement, you can understand why they were using that divide and the rule strategy, because they never wanted Africans to be together. They never wanted African nationalism to develop. So that's why they kept tribes in their own reserves, in their own regions. But the post-independence governments in Africa, including Kenya, their priority should have been nation building. How do we unite our people around certain common shared values? That's what we call nation building. That was the project at independence. But again, they lost it. They lost it in terms of the way they went about doing it. Let me tell you, Dr. Mandy, people are not stupid. People know. Look at the BBI report, which was recently put in place, and I think the Jubilee government still is insisting on imposing it on the people. Look at the way they created certain constituencies. There were about 70, a total of 70 constituencies. If you look at them analytically, you will see that almost 3/4 went to one particular region. And for obvious reasons. I mean, you see, this kind of policy, government public policy, should be conducted in a way which brings people together, put people together, and the people will see the perception people have towards management, public management of resources. It impacts their whatever attitudes they have towards their government and their society. Even people can see that now. A Kenyan president, even when he does appointments of senior governments, for instance, give it to Uhuru. If Uhuru is appointing 10 ambassadors or permanent secretaries, you may find even 6 of them coming from one particular region. 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. I mean, people may not go out in the streets complaining, but people perceive that. They internalize that. It creates grievances among people. There is some internal resentment. I am a scholar. I'm a historian. Let me give you an example. One time when I was I was a junior assistant lecturer at Egerton University in the early 1990s. President Moi invited the group of lecturers from Rift Valley to go and visit him in his state house, Kabarak. No, actually, his home, Kabarak. And when they come, those are our colleagues. I heard about 3 of them in my department who went to delegation to see him. And in the evening, when they came back, all of them, they were happy because Mzee gave them some pieces of land in those areas of Njoro, Ungata areas, and giving them maybe 5 acres per lecture. You see that? I mean, they were excited, and they came back excited. But now tell me, those of us who are not from the Rift Valley, those of us who are non-Kalenjins, how do you perceive? How do you internalize that? It alienates. It alienates. Is this a nation? That's a very good example. Not that I had any personal bad feelings towards my colleagues. Some of them now, they live in those places now. But you see, they are different from me.
Yeah, they are.
you see that? That's what I say. These activities of leaders, cumulatively, they give us an experience over the years, which keep alienating the citizenry from their country, from their nation. That pride. I told you that for a nation to qualify as a nation, the membership must be proud. And when I say proud, we must be patriotic. As a Kenyan, I should be patriotic to my country. But again, patriotism is not something that you command. You don't command the citizens that, oh, you Kenyans, we want you now to love your country, be proud of your country, be loyal to your country. No, it is something that you built. And how you built it? By policies, positive policies, which are for the common good, for the public good.
But now, what do we do now from here? You have talked much about leadership. Kenya's elections is a coalition of tribes. I mean, you have to make a coalition, which is based on tribes and numbers.
Yes.
To win an election.
Yes.
Which means the problem we have right there is the electorate. There is no time in Kenya that you can come and the people will discuss you as a good leader. First of all, they want to know where you come from. You say you are from Kisii. Even when we go to Kisii, we want to know which house do you come from, Kisii. You are from Basi. Then even in Basi, we have to know which clan. We have to know which clan do you come from. That is how a structure in Kenya is. So what can we do if we want to build a nation? Because you cannot become a president easily because you have to go to this tribal grouping. And if you win, they expect those appointments from them because they voted for you. They have a right to demand it. No, so what can we do to change that course?
I understand your question. It's a very good question. Now, let me give you an example. Last week, President Uhuru Kenyatta met leaders from the Ukambani region. You must have read about it in the media, where he said that he's now ready to support any leader who is nominated by the NASA group. He said that. But he was talking to a delegation of leaders from Ukambani, exclusively Ukambani. This organizing of Kenyan politics around tribes, this is a minus. This is a negative. We call it negative ethnicity. But from Uhuru's perspective, the Kenyan politician perspective, they want it is easier for them to organize and manipulate the Kenyan electorate along tribal lines. It's easier to do that. And why it is easier to do that, Kenyans themselves, because of poor politics, because of poor governance, have been socialized to prioritize tribal entity at the expense of the national identity. Now, how do we move forward?
Yeah.
Kenya needs good, committed nationalist leadership, which we have never had since independence.
Yeah, but how do we get that good person now? That's a big question to navigate through the tribal conglomerates. I mean, what is the way forward? You are a scholar now. Tell us, but what do we have to do?
My brother, we have a problem in that country. Let us be honest. Today, all Kenyans today, all of them, most of them, they know that we have a political crisis in that country. Recently, you saw the former Chief Justice Maraga saying that we are headed towards anarchy. A situation where the rule of law is even absent. Why? Because the problem we have in that country, and it's unfortunate, is that impunity, tribalism, ethnicity, corruption, regional inequalities, socioeconomic inequalities are all over. And now, the challenge we have as a people, you look at BBI. In a BBI, instead of finding a formula of creating a cohesive nation, they are creating positions for certain families or individuals to accommodate them to the high table, to the dining table, to please their tribesmen. Actually, they are creating positions for tribal chieftains, kingpins.
But what do we do?
Let me tell you, that is not the way to go. The best way to go, let me say this, and it may look more idealistic, but that is the only way we can go. The rule of law. The rule of law, and also the implementation, fully, complete, and a positive implementation of the 2010 Constitution, which has not been fully implemented. It has been abandoned on the way, and now the political class is more interested in creating more positions for other people to join them. That is not how you develop a country. It may look personal, it's a personal opinion, but I think through my knowledge and whatever I've seen in other countries, look at countries like Botswana. Botswana is a successful nation project. It's a nation, actually. Tanzania is a nation. And when you talk of a nation, Amandi, I'm saying, Daktari, is that people recognize, people are loyal to the country, to the nation. People are proud that they belong to a nation, not in Kenya. The best thing we should do is to have a leadership which is fully committed to the rule of law. And when I say the rule of law, I mean the Constitution. The Constitution should be implemented fully, and the economic resources must be distributed fairly so that people recognize that all Kenyans, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of whatever social standing, are equal before the law.
Yeah, it's good that you have brought an example of Botswana, and I think that is one our nation,
yes,
which actually had all the advantages Kenya had.
Yeah,
Celeste Kama was in Britain. He even married a Briton, as well as Kenyatta was in Britain, and he even married a Briton too.
Yeah,
they came back to build a nation.
Yeah.
One went to a tribal cocoon, want to build a nation.
Yeah.
That's one example that is Celeste Kama, the way he inherited a country with only 103, I think, only educated people. That country, the one he would give positions.
Yeah, also, to be honest, of course, Botswana is still a small country of around maybe 3 million people. I think.
Yeah, but the civil service, the people who are educated in Kenya, you know, they were missionaries and the people had already gone to school. By the time actually that country was getting independence, there were no people. He had even to request the colonialists to remain behind, those who were working to help him build a nation. And yet, he did build a nation which people are proud of. Now, where we are here is we are coming to 60 years of independence. Is there something we can do so that we can develop a nation where a person is judged by the content of his character, not his last name?
I like that. I like that. But before I respond to your question, I want to say something about Botswana. I have friends who live in that country, and I talk to them. Personally, I've not been there, but it's one country I would like to visit in the near future. One thing they tell me, and you can go and confirm this, is that the rule of law is visible, is clear. In Botswana, the law is law, not in Kenya. In that country, resources are fairly distributed, and that's one aspect which makes Botswana to be what it is. It's a very cohesive. Botswana is a nation. They have a few. I mean, resource-wise, Kenya may even be more richer than Botswana, but the way the government distributes public resources, even in terms of education. I think Botswana is one country in Africa whose educational opportunities, right from pre-unit through elementary school, through high school, all the way to university, almost completely free. And if you want to see that, you see some. I went to university with some people here in the US from Botswana. When they complete their studies, students from Botswana in the US, anywhere in the world, they leave immediately upon graduation. They fly back to their country
because they know they will get a job.
Some even leave. Actually, they don't even wait for graduation ceremonies. So long as they are assured that their certificates will be sent back to them, they're okay. They leave. Even those are among the very few countries in Africa. But look at Kenyans, my friend. Look at Kenyans. The diaspora.
Well, yeah, but we need to be proud of that, though. I mean, we need to be proud of that. Is that in Botswana still there are divisions, like when we were in the 70s. 70s, Kenyans who were doing that, who were going outside, they were coming back to get jobs. They will catch up with us. They will also. It shows that we are developed. We have enough people in the country who are educated, and the jobs are not enough. We have not to look at that one as negative. That is a positive.
But let me tell you, Dr. Mandi, don't confuse. Let us not confuse the listeners, because when you listen to stories from Kenya, when the president says that Kenya loses 2 billion daily to corruption, Kenya loses 2 billion daily to corruption.
And that is the president talking, who was sort of the instrument of
course
to stop.
Of course.
Why can't he stop it?
No. When the president says that and is crying, what do you expect from the citizenry, the people? It brings the morale, the motivation,
that's the meaning.
That sense of pride of belonging to Kenya, that commitment, that love of country.
Okay, we have come. Our time is ending. So, what is the turning point? What can we do to make Kenya a nation?
As I said earlier, let me repeat myself. Kenyans need to find a way of finding committed, serious leaders who are selfless. Leaders who care more about legacy, who care more about, who have a vision to unite Kenyans together and once more make Kenya proud of their country, of their nation. Otherwise, what we see today, you can agree with me, does not inspire people, does not inspire confidence, does not grow patriotism, does not give us pride as a people from that country. We are very demoralized. So the only option we have, again, I say, we need a leadership that will promote as a matter of priority the rule of law and the constitutionalism. Serious, not where leaders who implement constitutions selectively. We can't go that direction.
Okay, I want you to listen to this clip before we finish.
When he appeared for round 2 before the very Judicial Service Commission for an interview, Judge of Supreme Court position, Justice William Ouko Okello did not mince his words when asked about choking negative ethnicity in the country.
We are very deeply tribal, deeply. Even in this commission, deeply tribal. I want to leave it at that.
What Justice Ouko?
That's Ouko. He had already been interviewed for the Chief Justice, and then they give it to Matakome.
Now, let me tell you one thing. Kenyans, we must be honest to ourselves. The country is extremely tribalized. We are deeply entrenched in tribalism, the way that Ouko has stated it. Today, the three branches of government in Kenya, the presidents, the judiciary, parliament, are headed by people from one ethnic region, group. What message are you sending? What message do we send for?
Okay. Yeah. Well, Dr. Jota, it was nice talking to you. We can have this discussion another time, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Mandi. I wish you well.